Hello, everyone. You're listening to Psychology Outside the Box. My name is Dr. Flower. I have a PhD in psychology, so I'm not a wannabe or a knockoff. I've been teaching college and university courses for 20 years. Since the 1950s, California's Disneyland has been known as the happiest place on earth. It's the only place where everyone can feel that childhood happiness. There's just one problem with Disneyland. You can't apply for citizenship to live there forever. If you could, it would quickly become the most crowded place on earth. It's really sad, but when you run out of money or vacation time, you have to leave and go back to the real world. At least you will still have plenty of videos, photos, selfies, and amazing memories. But if you are looking for a place to live where you can stay longer than 2 weeks, the World Happiness Report that came out in March 2024 may be able to help. This report tells us that the 5 Nordic countries, including Finland, Denmark, Iceland, Norway, and Sweden, occupy 5 of the top 7 positions. Using data from more than 140 countries, the report is published every year by Gallup, the United Nations, and the University of Oxford. About 1,000 people in each of the countries are asked to evaluate their life satisfaction as a whole using a 10-point scale. Happiness ratings are gathered annually, and then a 3-year average is calculated based on about 3,000 people in each country. So this average is likely to be quite accurate. According to the 3-year average results, the Nordic countries, and not Disneyland, are the happiest places on earth. The United States has fallen out of the top 20 for the first time since the World Happiness Report was first published in 2012. This change is mostly due to the large drop in the well-being of Americans under 30. Canada does a little better with a rank of 15. Happiness among the young has fallen sharply across all of North America, to a point where those under 30 are even less happy than those who are 60 and older. Canadians in that age group rated their happiness so poorly that it falls drastically to the 58th spot worldwide when looking at how those under 30 answered. In the United States, the young people were even more dissatisfied with a ranking of 62, which was 50 points lower than older people. Apparently, young people in North America are more miserable than ever. This trend wasn't true in a lot of other places across the world. It seems that many young people are really struggling. This is a big change from 2006 through 2010. When the young were happier than those in the midlife groups and about equally happy as those aged 60 and over. We find year after year that life satisfaction is reported to be highest in the social democracies of Northern Europe, the so-called Nordic countries, Finland, Iceland, Denmark, Sweden, and Norway. The Nordic winter tends to be long, dark, and cold, but this does not seem to reduce their level of happiness. It certainly appears that the Nordic countries are doing something right. For a long time, Denmark dominated the top spot as the world's happiest country. And even though it fell to number 2, there are still plenty of reasons that contribute to the country's consistently high ranking. In Denmark, few people have too much and even fewer have too little. A comparison of the United States and Denmark shows that the advantage in happiness for the Danes was greatest for low-income citizens. Being poor in Denmark is not as harmful as in the USA, where the gap between rich and poor is much larger and where there are relatively few welfare services available for the poor. Danish residents pay some of the world's highest taxes. But most people say they are happy to pay taxes because they can see exactly what they get in return. Most healthcare in Denmark is provided with no fee to the patient at all. University students pay no tuition and receive a grant to help cover expenses while studying. Childcare is subsidized, and the elderly receive pensions and are provided with care helpers who visit them at home. Most Danish residents believe that it's everyone's responsibility to work if they can and pay taxes to support the common good. If everyone pays their fair share, a social safety net can remain in place to support the very young, the very old, and the sick. The social safety net also supports people who lose their jobs for up to 2 years while they look for new jobs, although a system is in place to make sure they are actively looking for work. Trust is an essential value in Danish culture and society and an important factor in happiness. There is lots of trust in each other when it comes to business, government, and personal relationships. Honesty is expected, and corruption in business or among public servants is very, very rare. The relatively high level of safety in Denmark compared to many other countries means that Danish children enjoy much more freedom and independence than elsewhere in the world. Denmark has a high level of equality and a strong sense of common responsibility for social welfare. Unlike Canada and the United States, in 2022, there were 12 political parties that each received more than 2% of the popular vote. This may seem impossible and unworkable, and yet it functions really well. No one wants to get rid of the welfare state. It should be noted that Denmark is far from a socialist economy. It is a free market economy just like the United States. Compassionate capitalism is a better name for what the Nordic countries are doing. But that topic is too complex for this podcast. Maybe another time. One of Denmark's key advantages is the balance between work and other aspects of life. While the Danes are hard workers, they prefer to do their jobs within Denmark's 37-hour work week, which is completed in 4 days. There is plenty of time for hobbies, loved ones, and recreation. Danes truly value leisure. The Danish concept of hygge, which is spelled Hygge, is about enjoying the simple and good parts of life together with people you care about. In general, it means taking time away from the daily rush to enjoy the good things in life. Hygge often takes place with family and friends, but you can also hygge alone, maybe with a good book or your favorite TV series. As one internet meme says, my retirement plan is going to prison in Denmark. A photo of a Danish prison cell is shown in the podcast description. It's a lot nicer than many apartments. If prisoners have a basic level of comfort, then they may be less likely to become violent, and if their prison environment is more like the outside world, they are more likely to return to a normal life. The inmates can buy groceries in an on-site shop, and they can prepare their own food. The guards also eat with the prisoners and interact with them. It's created a much healthier relationship between the guards and the inmates. Keeping people in crappy conditions with no comfort may not be the best way to improve rehabilitation. When I was young, I was very poor, but after many years of hard and painstaking work, I am no longer young. It may be true that money can't buy you happiness, but it is for sure true that poverty can't buy you anything. Global poverty is one of the most urgent problems across the planet today. The poorest in the world are often undernourished and without basic services such as electricity or safe drinking water. They have minimal education and they suffer from poor health. It is certainly true that the United States does not have the widespread famine or malnourished children that is sometimes found in extremely poor countries. But when comparing the U.S. to other developed countries, we find that American poverty is much more common and more extreme. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the United States has the highest child poverty rate among the world's 26 most developed countries. The U.S. rate of poverty is 21% compared to just under 12% in the other 25 countries. Again, we see the Nordic countries having the lowest rates of child poverty, with Denmark seeing only 2.9% of its children struggling in poverty. The United States has the highest standards of living at the middle and upper end of the income distribution, yet for children at the lower end, their standards of living fall far behind most other developed nations. Some of the world's happiest countries are also the most gender equal. Iceland, Finland, Sweden, Norway, and New Zealand all appear in the top 10 for happiness and also in the top 10 for gender equality. The Nordic countries have some of the most generous paid leave policies for parents in the world. For example, in Norway, new parents are entitled to a total of 49 weeks of leave at full pay or 59 weeks at 80% pay. Of these, 15 weeks are reserved for the mother, 15 weeks are reserved for the father, and the remaining 19 weeks can be shared between them as they see fit. In the U.S., nationally, the gender wage gap has been around for decades. According to Census Bureau estimates, it now shows that the average woman is being paid $82 for every $100 paid to a man. The gap widens for many women of color. If you are looking for a magical place where dreams come true, then Disneyland is certainly the place to be. So when trying to escape reality for 1 or 2 weeks a year, definitely go there for your family's vacation. But if you are searching for somewhere to live your life every day, the Nordic countries are still the happiest places on earth. Apparently, sun-drenched beaches and warm weather don't equate to happiness. It turns out that the happiest people in the world actually live in frigid temperatures, swim in icy waters, and pay higher taxes. Well, all good things must come to an end, including this podcast. But in the words of the Terminator, I'll be back. And I hope you will too. Okay, folks, it's all over for today. We're finished. We reached the end. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. I will miss you so very much.